Hello, Earthlings. Yeah, I'm totally doing all these in one fair swoop, so bear with me. Um, there was something I wanted to say that I kind of wish I said in the last video, but I forgot. It'll probably come back to me later. Anyways, we won't go on that. So in this video, I want to talk about my grandma and my grandpa Pete, who I didn't get to really see. Um, I remember seeing him when I was really young, and it was whenever I guess when my dad would, like, my dad said my mom stopped going over there whenever they got divorced, which I don't get why, and I don't think he ever understood why, but apparently after the divorce, she didn't want to be around him, and he ended up moving back to Ohio. This is also the side that I've always been told that they were Cherokee. His grandmother, my great grandmother, was Cherokee, but I don't have any access to any of those cousins that I could potentially have. Nothing other, great aunt, because I know he had a sister, but they divorced. My grandparents divorced whenever uh, I don't think they were very happy. And I remember like mom talking about how her dad was always drinking bush beer and smoking Marlboro cigarettes. That's all he ever did. I remember my dad talking about they all worked at Whirlpool at once, and he was saying that my grandpa was always borrowing money to buy beer and cigarettes, and on his paycheck he'd have to pay everyone back, but then he would just be turning around borrowing money again. Honestly, kudos for those friends who kept letting him borrow money. I don't know. Maybe they should have stopped letting him borrow money. But so I don't think my mom had the greatest childhood. Because I don't think my grandma and grandpa were that happy. I do know that they apparently married when they were both 19. So I mean that's young. I'm sorry, young people should not be getting married. You should not be wanting to automatically graduate from high school and marry someone. Go find out who the fuck you are first. Your 20s should be sent or spent finding out who you are as an individual and not who you are with someone. We do not complete other people, you complete yourself. That's a lie that they've told us for generations. But, anyways, they probably also got knocked up. I don't know. I know that my grandpa apparently had another kid by another person, but didn't marry her, but apparently married my grandma. And they stayed married until both my mom and her little brother, who was 2 years apart too, just like me and my sister. Um, but oh, then that's a whole other story. But my uncle, I went 10 years without talking to him, and finally went and talked to him, and then he told me about a lot of shit that my mom would do, and I'm like, oh yeah, she's just a rude, horrible person, to be honest. Like she chooses to be abusive. Um, that's another thing I want to say. People choose to be abusive and then people choose not to be abusive. It's not like, well, they were raised this. That's not an excuse. You choose to do that. But anyway, so whenever they were moved out, early age, 18, 19, I guess, or whatever, that's when they got divorced. And then my grandma married shortly after because clearly they were like hanging out a lot, going on. He was a truck driver. My step grandpa, is the one I was basically raised with, because they were married before I was born and shit. So like that's who I mean, I knew he was my step grandpa because we call him Bobo instead of grandpa. But Grandpa Pete, I do remember seeing him when I was young, going over to his house. He would always have like candy and shit for us to eat. I remember, and most people don't even like this, but those little peanut marshmallow shit from the circuses, yeah, he was really big on that. And I remember eating celery with peanut butter and raisins, which I feel like that's like an awesome little treat, but that's what he would fix and stuff. And I do remember him like not really talking with us though, like he was in the room, but he was on the couch watching whatever the hell he was watching on TV. So like maybe she just got tired of that. Like, I don't remember him actually interacting with us like my step grandpa did. Um, he would interact, he would talk to us, have conversations. We would do arm wrestles. He would always let us arm wrestle. Of course, he would always win, but we really tried though. But we were like young. It was just a fun little thing. And we had Boston Terrier Daisy. That dog raised me more than my own mother did. But anyways, this video is more about Grandpa Pete because he's a side of the family that I never got to get to know, and I am trying to find that side of the family, but have like no way of doing it because maybe if my grandma was still alive, she would have been able to help me. But and then even my uncle, he doesn't really talk to anybody either. And like there is this cousin that I haven't got to meet, but he like lives really close to me. And thought I was gonna get to meet him finally because my uncle and I were talking, but then my uncle just stopped talking to me again. So I was just like, okay, peace out. I don't care. He doesn't like the fact that I'm gay, anyways. So I kind of don't care that he doesn't want me in his life anyways, because I'm to the point where I don't want to hide any of that. If you can't accept me for who I am, then I don't want to be around you. And that's how everyone should be. I'm sorry. If you have to hide parts of yourself because of making someone uncomfortable, because they're, what they call homophobic, which I don't think that's even should be what it's called, because in reality, you're not afraid of that person, you hate them. You hate the fact that they're queer and they're just living life. I mean, most of us are literally just living our life and they're so mad about that. But I wouldn't mind getting to know that other side of the family because, yeah, my mom said that they were horrible and that they don't need to be known or whatever. But I also feel like there's this other part of her that's like shameful of herself because that is a native part. Um, like my grandma definitely has German, and I have Irish and Scottish on both sides of my family. Um, but I did an ancestry DNA test, and it just basically told me how white I was, and the Cherokee part did not even come up. And I was like, I know for a fact that I have that in my DNA. Like, it has to be there because it's not like some people are like, oh, my great 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 whatever. No, it was my great grandmother, just one great. She was full blood Cherokee. Her husband was questionable. I just remember them talking about how he was adopted, which now I know that a lot of indigenous natives got taken away from their family. So maybe he was a tribe also and was forced to be adopted by a white family. I'm more likely. Um, Knowing about that history, I'm just like, oh, why? And I did reach out to Cherokee Nation and try to like, I gave them my names that I thought were them, you know? Like I said, I don't talk to my mom anymore, so I can't just up and ask her. I thought about just saying, hey, sis, will you ask her this and have her, tell me? But she'll probably start questioning it, and then she'll probably try to get up in my business, and I don't want that. So I'm kind of basically doing it on my own. And so this video is for like that. Um, I do have some names, but I'm also like, I mean, it's what Ancestry showed me, and I guess it could be true. I don't know. But it stops at his parents. Like, it does not go any farther. All my other grandparents that are on there from dad's and mom's side, they go up, and I can kind of see where they came from. On my grandma's side, it really, I mean, most of it is showing, they were born in the US, whatever. But I go far enough back to where they're like, oh yeah, born in Germany. And I'm like, whoa. So, like, I want to know those roots. And I think everyone should be able to know those roots. Um, because society has made us not want to care about all of our roots. Like, yeah, I'm clearly white presenting. I don't have, I mean, I guess there's not really any red in my hair. I did have auburn hair whenever I was a toddler. I had a head full of black hair, which it's not black anymore. But it's changed to auburn, and then it's been this, like, kind of dirty blonde, brown, whatever the fuck you want to call it. But, and it's very, like, I mean, I have half of it shaved because I have my undercut going on. But it's, I mean, for it to be half shaved and it still has this much ponytail, I mean, it's kind of thick. But it's very, I don't know. So most of the people who would cut my hair say that I have fine, thin hair. And it's hard for them sometimes to, like, especially when I had it cut short. And I like the little emo kind of haircut with the feather, or not really feather back, but like going from my one eye, or whatever. And so I would have it cut short, and they would be like trying to like hold it between their fingers, and it would always fall through. But anyways, they still cut it though. But this is actually pandemic hair. I've been growing this since the pandemic started. But anyways, grandpa's side. That's all I remember of him. And my uncle said, yeah, and my dad kind of mentioned, like, yeah, after the divorce, for some reason, she just stopped. Maybe he bitched at her for getting a divorce. Maybe he should have, maybe he complained about her not trying hard enough. I don't know. Because apparently, my uncle says that whenever she stopped letting us see him, he got really upset about it, and was sad about it. That's what my uncle says. So I'm only hearing what they're saying. I don't remember much. I personally thought my grandpa died when I was very young, and around 4, because that was when the divorce happened. I didn't realize that he was actually like, I mean, I guess it was his death date that I see is in 95. So technically I would have been 6 or something. So it does, I don't know, but then my uncle said that he died when I was around 10, which would have been, older. That means he didn't die in 95. So that's why I don't know if Ancestry is. I did find his tombstone, which the tombstone does tell me 95. So if that's him, I'm guessing it's him. I only can go by, like, I don't know. I wish my uncle would talk to me at least about that, so that way I can at least get that information, and maybe talk to the cousin that we have, because I don't know if this cousin's on my grandpa's side or on my grandma's side. I feel like he might be on my grandma's side, but even on my grandma's side, I don't know. I don't know them. I know I have cousins. I remember seeing some cousins, but then that might have been my step grandpa's cousins, or like, because I remember seeing he has brothers, and I remember knowing his older brother. All of his brothers were living in that area, that I grew up in, and all of them are, I think all of them are passed away now, except for the youngest one. I don't talk to them anymore, because like my step grandpa, I stayed connected with him even after my grandma passed away, but I kind of stopped contacting him as much because he couldn't keep his damn mouth shut about talking to horror. Like, he would say gay bash people. He never gay bashed me, but I know he knew I was gay. Like, maybe he was just oblivious. Maybe he did just forget. Although I was going off of my mom said that she had told him that I was gay. I wasn't gonna tell him because I didn't know how he would react, and I was just kind of like, I mean, for the longest time, I just didn't tell nobody. I'll do that in another video about my coming out story kind of deal. But he died in, let's see, 2017 maybe. I think it was 2017, and I hadn't seen him for a few years because every time I go out there, he would have to say something negative about the gay community, and I just didn't want to be around that anymore. And maybe I should have verbalized, like, hey, your granddaughter's gay. Like, will you stop bashing me? Because that's what you're doing. Um, Instead, I've just stayed silent. Like I said, I haven't had a voice for a very long time, so me sharing this to people is a lot. And that's probably why of course, I can't really look at the camera anyways, because I don't want to see myself. So I'm always looking off, but I'm also trying to remember and gather my words and how I want to say it. But anyways, uh, I don't think they were. I don't know where I was going with that, but like my grandpa, Pete, that's what I remember having to call him. But I don't even know where Pete comes from, because like it's like Henry Glenn or something on his uh Tombstone. So I don't know where the Pete comes from. Maybe it was just a nickname. I don't know. But uh, and my uncle is got the same middle name as him, Henry, and then my uncle's name. But anyways, I like to get in touch with those people because even though my mom said they were bad people, come to find out she's a bad person. So because she's a bad person, I kind of want to have my personal, vibe them out if I ever get to get in touch with them, talk to them, see why they didn't hang out with my mom. I mean, I remember my dad telling me about my mom calling one of her cousins a whore because she would sleep around. Apparently, allegedly, because I think that's funny because my mom, when she was at Whirlpool, my dad knew how she was going from every dude, even married ones. She was trying to find someone, and he just got in the crossfire, and then went down that path of marrying her. They're getting, maybe I'll do a video on how they got together, but it was not very long. It was like a 3 month get to know each other, and all of a sudden they're getting married. It was bullshit. My mom was targeting him. She's seen that she can control him, basically, is what that was. Because my dad he kind of doesn't have his own voice either. He's getting a little bit better now. He's actually setting boundaries with his family, because his family, like I said in another video, he would always buy us toys, and even his family would be like, you spoil them too much and all this shit. But they never thought that, like, dude, he didn't get to see us that often. So, of course, whenever we're going to hang out with him, he's going to overly do it because he doesn't get to see us the majority of the time. But they would just talk negatively to him. And then I told him, like, recently, I was like, just so you know, like, being that like, you not listening to them was powerful because they would tell him that you need to spank them more and all this shit. And I'm like, we were literally just acting like kids. That's the thing. Like, we weren't even bad kids. We were just being kids playing because while we were with mom, we were already walking on eggshells with her. So being with dad, we didn't have to walk on eggshells. We could actually be a kid. Um, and they were trying to ruin that. And he was like, I don't understand why they would always tell me that. I didn't listen to them, kind of deal. I don't know, that's my dad talking. Some weird thing. But he's the mentally ill one. And he's the one that, had to go to, he had shock therapy done to him. This is not about my grandpa at all, but he had shock therapy done to him. And whenever he told me that, I thought it was like, I don't know, once a month. No, they did shock treatment on you. Oh my god. 5 times a day, if not more, every day. That's how they would do shock treatment on him. My dad's brain is probably fucking fried and on all these stupid drugs that they put him on, and I wish, this is another thing, being a president, I want to have microdosing and cannabis be completely legal federally across all states. I don't give two shits if you hate it or not. If you don't like it, then don't smoke it. Don't take it. But I know for a fact that even other military people who go around, find their own little way, because I've watched documentaries on it, do the microdosing shit, and they actually, like, healed from shit. Like, they remembered some stuff that they couldn't quite remember. That's why they were having night terrors or whatever. It helps people. And I hope that I can get into there and get him on a good diet and everything. Because I really believe that the food that we consume is, a lot of it's bad, and I'm going to go through and ban everything that should have already been banned from our ingredients, because, like, there's a lot of ingredients out there that other countries have banned and made it where it's not allowed in their ingredients at all. Like, you can't have that in there because they know it's cancer causing. That's why it's such a high volume, high level, whatever you want to call it, here in the US of people with cancer. It's the food we consume, it's the pills that they make us take, it's all that toxic shit. I'm going to flip pharmaceutical upside down because I'm done with it. FDA, flip it upside down. It's done. And completely change it to where it looks at plant medicine is where we should be at, not this synthetic artificial, man-made in a lab bullshit. Because my dad is on a lot of pills, and we live in a state that there's probably not even access to being able to do other stuff. I would love to move him somewhere and get him on, I know he doesn't like smoking cannabis, but you can consume it. I want restaurants from all over, everywhere in this um, uh, country. I was like, what's it called? Uh, where you can go to a restaurant and be like, hey, I want cannabis added to my dish. And the person will know how to cook with it. And I mean, I want them trained. I want them not, giving you too much because we don't want you like falling asleep at the table or whatever. You know, have it, cooked in where it's nice and mellowed out and shit. And that way, if you don't like smoking it, but you can, consume it. And I feel like it'll still have good benefits. Microdosing on mushrooms, I want that to be legal, and I will be advocating it even before the election, because the thing is pharmaceutical doesn't want us to heal because they want us still having to use those drugs that are never going to cure us. They're not. It's not a cure. It's a temporary fucked up tool that has horrible side effects. The fact that they have side effects should be point blank simple. Like, okay, if this has side effects, I don't want to take it. But we've been programmed to think, well, side effects are just normal. That's not normal. But anyways, back on my grandpa. Kind of on the rant. I wish I could have contact with him is basically what this video is for, even though I kind of got on a tangent with my dad. But my dad remembered telling me, like, he remembers seeing my grandpa for a while, and then after the divorce, my mom just stopped going. I don't know why. Maybe something bad happened that she has good reason. I don't know. I mean, he was basically an alcoholic, and he loved smoking cigarettes, and he would smoke in the house, so maybe her growing up with that, because I remember her talking about how she would have to paint the walls to paint over the nicotine, because nicotine does that to your walls. Or I guess it's nicotine. I personally believe it's all the other bullshit chemicals that they put into the cigarette is really what's going on the wall. Um, I don't think tobacco is what's bad. It is all the other bullshit that they put into it that's questionable. That causes all that shit, cancer and shit. But anyways, I don't even think he died of cancer. Maybe he did die of cancer. My grandmother died of cancer, which I was going to talk about her in this one too. Like I said, my grandma divorced him, and then shortly after that, I'm pretty sure he got married to my step grandpa. But my step grandpa, I mean, I really think they loved each other. They're the only reason why I know what love could be, because of how they basically raised us, because we were always over at their house. But I would like to go up to Ohio, I guess, and see his tombstone and see if I can see other names. Maybe he's buried by some of the other relatives, and I can kind of like, collect those names too. Because I know he had a sister. Because I remember my uncle told me that he moved to Ohio to move in with his sister because that was the only place he could really go. Because after he found out that my mom wasn't going to let us see him anymore, he was just like, all right, fine, I guess I'm going to go up and move. And all I can say, that's what I've been told. I don't know what happened. I just remember when I did go visit him, he kind of seemed like he was excited to have us around, honestly, I just remember him sitting at the table or at the chair and watching TV the whole damn time. I remember, like, the TV might be going at our grandparents' house, but we were also like, it was like background noise, kind of. Like, yeah, there was a movie going, but we were like, chatting, talking, playing, whatever. We were actually allowed to be kids, but my grandma, she passed away when I was 14. Uh, and that was when I shut down. This was probably gonna be where I get a little emotional, but maybe not. We'll see how it goes. Usually when I talk about my grandma, I get emotional. But uh, she passed away of cancer. She had lung cancer at first, but they kept diagnosing her of bronchitis or some shit. But she was like, no, there's something else wrong. That's why I hate doctors. Doctors are, I'm sorry, you're gonna get flipped upside down too, because you should listen to your fucking patients. Like, not like the people that are coming to you for their health need to know that you're listening, because they like to just, because my other grandma, my dad's mom, she died of cancer too, and they told her the same thing. Because she had dementia, she must not know that she's feeling pain. I'm sorry, but just because you have dementia does not mean that you can't feel the fucking pain that your body's, telling you. Because I think she had lung cancer, or I don't know if she had lung cancer. I remember it was diagnosed late, and so it basically had already got. Uh, Same with my other grandma, um, uh, one that died when I was 14. She was told she had it. Finally, they did something and found out she had not only bronchitis, but it wasn't bronchitis, it was freaking cancer. And so she took us to Disneyland in California, because that's where she was from, Orange County. Um, she took us to her high school, drove us by her house, and she's like, I just want you guys to see where I came from and shit. So I really would love to go out to California, go to Orange County, visit those places again, see if I can remember. I don't know if I'll be able to remember, but go to Disneyland again. Because she had taken us, her and grandpa took us out there because she knew she had cancer. And here's the emotions. It was our basically the last hoo-ha, the big trip that we got to take with her, because she died just a few months later. Because she chose not to do chemotherapy, which honestly I don't blame her, because chemotherapy to me is worse than probably having cancer. But and that's another thing. Like, we know that cannabis can help with cancer. I went to a cannabis little talk thing, because I was going to try and get in, it was supposed to help me get access to when the dispensaries finally opened, which was all a lie. So I spent $100 on nothing, because it took years later for them to even get cannabis dispensaries in my damn state, and it's still just medical. You have to have the stupid card. But anyways, I mean, this was 2003, and so cannabis is not going to be looked at as an option to help with that or whatever. I mean, I don't think she was smoking cannabis. That'd be kind of cool if she was. But because I know that my aunt and uncle did smoke. Um, they never really would technically smoke around us, but I mean, they would sit there and smoke the damn cigarettes in front of us. I'd rather them smoke cannabis in front of us than nasty ass cigarettes. But anyways, and maybe they did smoke the other thing. I just never noticed it. I just thought it was cigarettes. But anyways, so she took us to Disneyland. We drove all the way to California. That was a long ass trip. We got to see Grand Canyon. Stopped at probably some other little places I can't quite remember. But she bought me a disposable camera, and I got to take photos along the way. I still have the photos in my closet. Um, but it was her trip for us, because I do kind of remember her. We were at one of the hotels and we were swimming in the pool, and she came out there to swim with us because she was hurting really bad, and she was hoping that swimming in the pool would help. It's crazy what she did while hurting so much. Because, I would have never thought she was hurting on that trip, but she was. It was fun though. Got to go to Disneyland. She walked around everywhere. I mean, she went on the rides with us. Um, I remember the Pirates of the Caribbean ride for sure. I remember the Haunted Mansion one. Those are my favorites. And then I remember going to the Star Wars one. I'm pretty sure it was the Star Wars one. I just remember getting into a ship, and it made you feel like you were going in a time warp or whatever. It was cool. I hope to go there again soon. I haven't gone since I was there, 14. Um, but anyways, her passing is what caused my mom to move. Like I said in the past video, we moved to high school, and that was when I basically just went numb. I didn't care about making new friends, nothing. Uh, but I wouldn't mind getting in touch with her side of the family too. Whether that be this cousin that lives not far from me. But now I have the old awkwardness with my uncle because he's like, I'm not talking to you anymore. And it's probably because of how he treated my aunt. They recently got a divorce, literally past December. Um, he had his uproar of telling me how evil she was and all this kind of shit. But now he's not talking to me, so I'm like, who was really being the bitch? I did talk to her a few days ago, and she, told me her side of the story about what was going on, and I was like, wow. But like, that's the thing. Whenever she talks to me about what happened, she's very calm and just like talks about it. She's like, it's not great, but it's what I'm going through. But whenever he talks about it, he gets so angry and like kind of violent. Not really violent, but like, I don't know, just I don't like the anger. And not saying I mean, if he really did, like, I don't know. He acts like she held him back. But when I was younger, I remember them talk because we lived with them for a little while too. My mom and us moved in with them, and he was the one who reminded me that my sister used to have night terrors at a young age. And I was like, probably because of the trauma we went through. Joy. Um, but I forgot what I was saying. Anyways, I remember there, like, apparently my uncle was in a lot of bad drugs. And whenever he met my Aunt Paula, she was the one who got him out of those drugs. And she was older than him. Like, quite, I think they're like a decade age difference or something. And my grandma, I feel like she liked her, but my mom hated her. Always hated her. Even though we would go see, of course, we would see our uncle. But then they got in a fight, and so for a while I didn't go see my uncle because I didn't even really know what was going on. But I did go visit them one holiday, and they made me feel like I was not really wanted there. And then when I went to go visit with them 10 years later, about 10 years later probably, my Aunt Paula said, I didn't mind y'all guys being there that day, but you brought someone over without my permission. And it was my sister's at the time boyfriend, which honestly she has every right to feel that way because she was like, I didn't know him, never really heard about him. I didn't like how he looked, and I was like, you had every right because he was not a good guy. But I thought it was because we were there just in general. Um, but it was because we brought someone with us that we should not have brought with us without asking, because we did show up kind of like surprise. We just wanted to hang out, and then there was some nonsense with even my sister with them. So, anyways, I just kind of stopped talking to them too. But also, I came out to them. My aunt didn't care, but my uncle totally made a big deal. What influenced you to? What were you watching to make you think you're gay? And I'm like, dude, I'm just born this way. Like, what do you mean? I didn't get to watch gay shit when I was growing up. So like, no, there was no gay shit out there for me to watch. I mean, not saying there wasn't some gay movies out there, but I damn sure didn't know about them. I had to find them out later in life whenever I was hanging out with my queer friends who knew about that kind of stuff. The only thing that's really weird about my mom, though, Rocky Horror Picture Show. She let us watch that when I was 8 and my sister was 6. We had listened to the soundtrack for like ever before watching the movie, so it was really weird to watch the movie and know every song. But she hates gay people. She loves that movie, but she hates gay people. How does make that make sense? I don't understand. Another thing, so my Aunt Paula, when I came out to her, she already knew. I didn't come out until I was like 18, 19 with them. She goes, I was just waiting for you to tell me. It's okay. But my Uncle Terry reacted completely different. And then she told me about my grandma and her having a conversation about they figured I was gay apparently at a young age. It's really funny how everyone else knew but me, but okay. Um, but she said she was gonna be okay with it. She didn't care, and I think that's why she was so much more kind to me than my mom, because she's seen how my mom was treating me, and I think that's why she would be extra kind to me. Because I know that my mom was like, I don't know, in a sense, jealous because apparently my mom or my grandma didn't really treat her kids that well, and I think they have that trauma to heal from. Even my uncle, because my uncle was telling me too. She's like, yeah, I mean, when you like grandma, my mom, him talking about his mom treated us way better than she treated her own kids. But I also think that that has to do with being in a marriage that you're not happy with, and that's why people who stay together because their kids, that's not the healthy thing to do. Co-parenting separately is probably better. Of course, they didn't really have that back then. I feel like co-parent. I mean, I'm not saying there aren't people out there who know how to co-parent, even from older, decades, but it's definitely getting, put out there more now. That's why I'm saying, like, tell your story, talk about what you want to talk about. Try to find those people who get you, and that's why I'm doing this. Is because I want people to relate to me and see what I've gone through and how I've dealt with it and shit. Which is, by the end of the little playlist, I'll be getting to that point. But right now, I'm just kind of talking about my grandparents and how they affected me and shit. And like my dad's side, which I don't even have them about here, but I grew up with them because anytime I go see my dad, a lot of times he was living with them because he didn't have, financial support that well. Because remember, he's the mentally ill one. Um, and so he would live with them a lot. So I did go around them a lot. They were kind of grandparents who, like, you were there, you were just meant to be outside and away from them. Like, and my mama, she was like all about clean, like keeping the house clean. If we dirty, like, we couldn't have drinks or anything in the living room. Like, we had to eat and drink, which is whatever. Of course, me as a kid, I'm like, dude, I want to watch TV and eat. And plus, like, at mom's house, she didn't care where we ate. So, like, to go somewhere where there's actually some structure, it felt like they were just being, being or very disciplined. But I get my mom now. But she did, after having her heart attack, she did like kind of, took it back a little bit and kind of let the house get a little dirty and not care about it. Because she's like, there's kids in here. It's supposed to be dirty. Honestly, if your house is constantly clean and you have kids, I'd be worried about those kids. I'm like, do your kids get to play? Oh, like, what? Now, if they have their own little room where all the chaos is at, cool. But, like, that's still separating them from you, and it should be a part of it. But, anyways. But, during my spiritual journey, have I had to go through all these emotions and all these memories and stuff and actually like think about them, process them, and look at how did that actually make me feel, because I wasn't allowed to feel what I actually felt. I had to feel what they wanted me to feel. And so going through that and feeling what I didn't get to feel, that's why healing your inner child is super important, because going back and sitting with that younger self of yours and being, I mean, I personally believe like the spiritual, higher self, whatever, but I feel like even sometimes my future self would come back. Like, it's kind of weird to think that right now my mental health and going through the healing inner child, it was like there was some moments of my childhood where I was like, that it will get better. And it's kind of like your older self coming back and healing your inner, your younger self, and you having those moments that kept you going. Because there was probably a lot of times where I just did not want to exist. I know for a fact I did not want to exist a lot of times. But having those safe people that I, would try to be around more helped me. But then, like I said, when my grandma died, it kind of just went downhill. And plus, my mom made me move and all that kind of shit. But not knowing my grandpa's side kind of sucks too, because like I think everyone should resonate with all of their heritage. Like I said, I would love to go to Scotland, Ireland, and Germany, because I do have that ancestry in my blood, and I want to get to know those parts of myself, because I'm not just a person who was born here in the U.S. I don't think of myself as an American. I'm not American, because to me, thinking that you're an American is you're a colonizer, because that's what America was. America stole this land and renamed it to claim it, and it already had a name, and they just. I'm not American. I'm not patriotic. Do not care. You can come at me. I don't care. I would just delete any negative comment. Um, Being an American, it means being a colonizer. And I don't want to be that. I want to reconnect with my native side, because I do have, I'm guessing, hopefully it is Cherokee. That would kind of be suck if it was the wrong one. Because going to Cherokee and like they did put my names in there, or like the names I gave them, but they didn't have anything come back. So I was like, oh, but I don't know how to go about doing that. I would have to like somehow reconnect with someone who knew my grandpa and would might have documents from him, because he was a Marine. I know he was in the Marines, so that's another thing that my mom had to deal with. Him being in the Marines, when he, I don't know if he had actually fight anything. It wasn't talked about if it was. Maybe that's why all he did was sit in front of a TV and watch TV all the damn time. I mean, he would work, but he spent more money on beer and cigarettes than anything. And my grandma, her getting cancer, lung cancer. Actually, it was breast cancer, because I remember getting breast cancer and her removing one of the breasts. And I remember her even showing us her like fake little bra thing to make her look like she had us touch it. I was just like, wait, what's going on? But it was her. She had to have one of her boobs removed, because that was where the cancer was. But I guess it had already spread, or maybe it was just lung cancer as well. But her first husband, smoking cigarettes non-stop in the house with probably the windows down, especially during the winter. Dude, that causes secondhand smoke, and so she got fucking cancer from it, and it's lame. Um, and her second husband, my step grandpa, he smoked too, but I think he might have had a heart attack or something, and had to have that vein thing done where they take it from your leg and put it there. Anyways, he ended up quitting smoking afterwards, but he did smoke at first. She never smoked though. Cigarettes, anyways. I don't know about other stuff, but anyways. So I guess that's like in this video. I just kind of rambled on a little bit. But I did want to talk about my grandma and my grandpa, the Cherokee side of the family. I also put down my tattoo. I have a tattoo right here, because she only had one tattoo, and it was a red rose on this shoulder. And I remember seeing it when I was younger and going, oh my gosh, grandma has a tattoo, And it had my step grandpa's name. And then he had it on one of the arms. I can't remember which arm it was, but it was a red rose, and she had a red rose. They both had red roses, and each other names tattooed on them. Her only tattoo. I don't know if he had any other tattoos, but that was her only tattoo. So on my tattoo, it's a yellow rose instead of a red rose. A yellow rose because I remember her planting a lot of roses. She was probably the one reason why I'm into horticulture, because I got to help her build the flower beds at that house that we grew up in. Because that's the only stable thing I really had was that house. And so I got to help her with the flower beds. I got to help her plant shit. And her favorite rose was a yellow rose. I don't know how I remember that, but I just remember her really liking the yellow roses. So mine's a yellow rose. It has Grandma Joan on it, and then it has her her birthday and her death day date on there. And that's that. I don't have a grandpa. I don't have one for my grandpa. Mostly because he just wasn't. I don't know. Maybe I will get one later if I can reconnect with that side of the family and get to know that side of the family. Maybe it'll be a little bit more meaningful. But like right now, it's just it's not, because he wasn't in my life. And like even my step grandpa, because of how it ended and how I didn't really want to be around him. Yeah, he was great all through childhood and stuff, but not going around saying gay bashing shit in front of your gay grandkid, like that's just not cool. And so I don't care about that. But my aunt Paula telling me that, I said her name, my aunt telling me um, that she wouldn't have cared, and plus knowing that she was my safe person, I just feel like that's more meaningful, and that's why I have a tattoo for her. But anyways, um, I think I'm gonna end it on that. So the next video, if you go and watch it, I will be talking about high school more, and the time that I felt like I was gonna just end it all, because I just didn't want to deal with the bullying from my mom anymore. I want to talk about that in the next video. But until then, peace within, and I'll see you next time.